After defeating Berwyn Bears in round 2 of the Pro Chess League, in round 3 we faced the mighty Team Blitz led by two superstars Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Alexander Grischuk. It turned out to be one of the most dramatic, most tense, most exciting and most entertaining matches I have ever watched, and in this video I will try to depict all the excitement that happened by taking a look at some of the highlights and most interesting moments. I really hope you will enjoy. So our lineup consisted of Deac Bogdan Daniel on the first board, Aleksandar Injic, Serbian number 1 and the recent member of the Croatia Bulldogs on board 2, the very solid and good performing Danes Varbardia on board 3, and Polina Shuvalova on board 4. The opposing team, as I mentioned earlier, was led by Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Alexander Grischuk, and they were joined by two relatively younger players, Michael Boyer and Demante Deote Cornet. Pardon my French, that was probably horrible. So a lot of it depended on whether we would be able to, let's say, beat these over 2 rated players or hold our ground against the top 2 boards, at least in theory. As we will see in practice, these theoretical considerations all fell into water once the moves started to be made on the board. Let's dive into the action by examining the first round encounter between Danes Varbardia and Maxim Vachier-Lagrave. As you might know from previous recaps, Daneshvar has been playing a tremendous season. He had many scalps and he turned out to be a true pick-off for this season. And initially in game 1 it almost looked as if he would continue in the same brilliant style. By move 32 he was completely winning against MVL. So not only is white a clear pawn up, but the white also has a decisive attack going on, and actually Bardia managed to find a strong move bishop to g6, attacking the f7 pawn. The idea is to, if f takes g6, rook b7 happens, and now the 7th rank has been opened and black will get checkmated soon. MVL played rook f8, trying to defend f7, and here something very curious happened. I'm not even sure if that was a mouse sweep or something, or nerves maybe, but Bardia played the move rook to b8, and after f takes g6 he actually just lost a piece for the moment, probably missing that after rook to b7 that there is no immediate threat because of bishop to e7. Probably this was the trick he missed, because now you are counter-attacking on f2 and actually it is white who is getting checkmated, not black. Instead, the simple rook to b7 immediately would have decided the game on the spot, because then you get bishop to f7, and yeah, I mean, it is just easily winning. So it was a big pity that this happened, because we already won this round 2.5, 1.5, but if Bardia managed to upset MVL, then I mean, the match would have been almost decided. Okay, I'm over-exaggerating, but it would have been a huge result. So as I mentioned earlier, Bulldogs managed to win the first round with 1 point lead, 2.5, 1.5. However, our opponents retaliated in round 2. And once again, it was MVL who continued racking up points for the French team, this time by beating our board 4, Polina Shuvalova, in a very crazy game. So we can see already from this position that something strange has happened, because king is on e2, white has no rooks, and so on. And actually both sides played very well, but white has definite compensation for the exchange because of these weird pieces and because of this king. However, Polina was in severe time trouble. Like MVL had like 6 minutes here and Polina had like 10 seconds. And in this time pressure, she played the move bishop to b5, simply blundering queen d8 and then queen c7 with check. And yeah, this is all she wrote. The only move here would have been queen to a5, simply defending this rook, and it is debatable whether white has anything better than repeating the moves. Maybe they can try to play for a win with h4. I'm sure MVL would have continued playing when Polina was so low on time. But yeah, it was a very crazy game, and and that's what makes MVL. And it's very impressive actually in what style he managed to defeat the very solid Polina. However, to be completely fair, it is kinda expected that MVL or their board 2 beats our board 4, even though there were some chances. But the main reason why we didn't win round 2, or why we lost by 1 point margin, was the following win game between Deac Bogdan Daniel and their board 3 Michael Boyer, a very young international master. So Deac has played a fantastic game, And we can see that here he has an endgame with queen 2 extra pawns. And you might think, okay, but nothing bad can happen here, white will just win. However, when there are knights and when there is time pressure, there are always tricks. And here actually Death botched it by playing bishop to b3. Very natural move attacking the knight, but the problem is that now, like literally anything else is winning but this. Because after bishop c7, it transpires that if you go king f5, knight d6 is checkmate on the board. So that is why Death had to play knight d6, and after bishop to d6, suddenly it is black who is better. But fortunately for us, the opponent was also very low on time, and white has a very clear plan of just exchanging some pawns, and actually the game ultimately ended up in a draw. Which was, you know, given this position, maybe not the best result for the French team, but given this position, a huge save and a massive boost of confidence for them going forward. Fortunately, we were a little bit luckier on board 2, where Aleksandar Injic, the top-rated Serbian grandmaster, faced their board 4, Demante Daute Cornet. Once again, sorry if I'm butchering this French name. So we have this position on the board. We can see that the material is equal. White nominally has some advantage because of the bit more active pieces and a little bit better pawn structure. Black has 3 pawn islands, white has only 2. But it is a very unclear position because white king is also a bit exposed. There are heavy pieces on the board. There are quite some drawish tendencies here. And Injic had just given the check with the queen on d3. And fortunately, the opponent blundered here by playing g6. He should have just retreated the king, because this back rank check, rook c8, I mean, there's nothing bad happening with rook to d8. Instead she played g6, which kind of, okay, you might see, it's not probably advisable just open the king a little bit more, but it's even more not advisable because there is this move rook c6, and suddenly this g6 pawn can be defended. The game saw queen to h2, hg6, and Injic went on to win because black is simply collapsing. The king is being completely exposed now and the pawn structure is being ruined. So yes, somewhat a lucky break, but I think you would agree not as lucky as the previous 2 games between MVL and Bardia and Mahel Boyer and Death. So as we have seen earlier, Mahel Boyer has saved quite a tremendous game, or lucky game, in round 2 against Death Bogdan Daniel. And in his round 3 encounter against Polina Shuvalova, he managed to make something even more remarkable, because he has been lost for the entire game, almost. Polina played him very, very nicely, very, very impressively. But once again, time trouble had its tail. And she actually had some easier ways to win up to this point, but she didn't find them. And in this position, actually, it is a little bit tricky. We see that we have a rook versus pawns position, but these 2 pawns are somewhat dangerous. And actually, black has only one winning move here, which is this very counterintuitive move rook to d8. The point is simply to control the h8 square and to paralyze the h6 pawn, because if you play h7, then I just attack it and win it. And if you play g5, then I play this move rook h8, and then I immobilize all these pawns, because if g6 I take, if h7 I take, and then means that white will have to spend maybe some time to bring the king or push this pawn, and this gives me more than enough time to queen my pawn and win the game. So it is very, very instructive, but very tough to see, you know, in time pressure, what you want to do normally with few seconds on the clock, just push them, baby. But this is actually a mistake, because after g5, b3, these 2 pawns are actually quite dangerous. However, now it was Boyer's turn to go wrong, because he played h7, which is actually a mistake. He should play g6, b2, g7, b1 queen, g8 queen, and this is apparently some sort of crazy computer draw. Don't ask me why. Probably you get into draw on a rook versus pawn endgame or something, but yeah, don't ask me for the details. However, he played h7, which actually is losing, because after b2, h8 queen, b1 queen, yeah, this is apparently winning compared to a different position, presumably because this pawn is less far advanced, and probably black can get a better version of the rook versus pawn endgame. You probably have rook a3 here as well, so it is a little bit different compared to this position we have seen earlier, where this is also already check. So, and this h pawn is much more advanced and much more tricky to deal with. But instead, like, once of course these are all computer lines, it's impossible to see on the board, especially with so little time. And here Polina played the human move rook d8, but now suddenly after g6, b2, g7, b1 queen, g8 queen, suddenly white is queening with check, and suddenly black is totally lost. And it's only by some miracle that after king h3, queen d8, queen h7, at some point White simply blundered this f2 pawn, like it was like some queen h4 check and blundering the pawn, and ultimately Polina managed to save the game, which from this, when I saw this position, I thought she was gonna lose, because I mean, it's queen endgame, low time, it's almost impossible to hold, but somehow she did it. But given the position at the start, or even position she had earlier in the game, it was kind of big disappointment, and at some point I was like, okay, are these losses really going to cost us ultimately these missed opportunities, because the match was very tight and every half a point mattered, and I was getting a little bit annoyed that this kid is saving such positions in a very impressive, you know, online specialist manner. Fortunately, these missed opportunities didn't end up costing us the match, even though it looked like that at some point, because in round 4 we were kind of losing, and only thanks to some miracle save by Deac, Bogdan, Daniel, and impressive Najdorf game by Ingic against MVL did we manage to actually keep the match tight and go into the tiebreak, which was held on 3+2, so Blitz time control. I will not analyze round 4 games here, but feel free to check the report, which will be linked below the video. And in tiebreak, even though they had two Blitz specialists, sort of, Maxim and Grishchuk, things went our way, and one of the most impressive performances in such an important game I have ever seen happened in the game between Ingic and MVL. So this time the covers were reversed. Ingic was playing the white pieces, and he actually busted MVL's Grunfeld with some very aggressive prep. And by move 17, he's completely winning. But just take a look at how he does it here. So Ingic in this position played rook h8, king h8, queen h6, king g8, knight g5, threatening queen h7. Queen a5 was tried, trying to distract the king, king f1. Bishop to e2 was tried, trying to maybe get the king into the open to play queen to e5 next. King to g1, none of that. Knight f6, ef6, still threatening all sorts of mates. Queen g5, and now queen g7 mate. I mean, it's rarely do you see such a player like MVL being beaten in such a style, and Ingic also beat him in round 4 with the black pieces, so very few people can boast that they beat MVL in back-to-back games. So yeah, truly impressive performance by Ingic, and yeah, nice sign up for the team on my behalf, that's for sure. Last but not least, even though Ingic won relatively quickly, matters were still kinda unclear on all 3 boards, but the fate of the match was sealed by Polina's game against Demante Daute Cornet, where Polina had the black pieces and which she managed to win. So it was a very tense encounter, and we joined the game on move 32. So the players have been repeating moves. White has perpetual check. Polina was clearly better earlier than she was in some danger, as it usually goes, but objectively the game should now end in a draw. But given the team situation, White was kinda forced to play for a win. And here, Demante played the move rook to f6, obviously threatening mate and hoping that, yeah, there's nothing Black can do about it. But fortunately, Polina kept her cool, and she played queen d4 check, king h1, queen a1 check, king h2, and now queen to e5. And this is probably what White missed. The problem is that this is not only check, but it also threatens to exchange queens, and there is nothing White can do, and basically Black will just remain a rook up, and therefore White resigned. And this was a huge relief, like it was a huge moment of excitement for me as a commentator, like it was just incredible, like the match had me on the edge of my seat. At some point I thought we were, you know, all these missed opportunities would come back to haunt us, but kudos to my players, they managed to, you know, go past them, to keep playing very well until the very end, and beat an incredibly strong team with two 2700 plus players, putting us at 2-1 in the season, and only 1 win away from reaching the playoff stage. So yeah, this was the recap of our week 3 match of the Pro Chess League. At the moment of the recording, we are just about to play our week 4 match against a very strong Shanghai Tigers team, so we'll see how that will go. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and feel free to check some of the other content on the channel, either related to the Pro Chess League or to anything else. I will refrain from usual commercial breaks because this video is as long as it is. All support and all following of the Pro Chess League and my work is much appreciated, and I would like to thank you very much for staying with me until the very end. See you in the next video. Thank you and bye.